Hello and welcome to the Diocesan Environment Network's Hope and Inspiration Online Art Gallery. Joining us right now is the latest photographer to join the group, Lidvald Haugen-Strand. Lid, thanks for joining us this evening and agreeing to do the interview.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So what's your background and how did you get started in photography?
Okay, I grew up in Vancouver and I went to a Lutheran church, and in my 30s, I left the church for a while and ended up in a large community, one of Jean Vanier's communities that was in Burnaby, British Columbia. As a result of being there, I became more and more called to becoming a minister. So I went to the Lutheran Theological Seminary in Saskatoon, where I studied and was ordained into the Lutheran ministry. A couple of years after that, I found that my calling really wasn't to parish ministry at this time. It was to institutional ministry, to working in hospitals with those who are sick or needy or needed support. So I became a chaplain. And I did that until 2006, in which I retired. And then I was called into parish ministry with the Anglican Church of Canada, first in Nova Scotia and later in New Brunswick. And that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years.
And how did you get started in photography and how long have you been doing?
That's an interesting story because I never was much into photography because when I grew up, you had to pay for the development to take some lovely pictures and then you'd go bankrupt trying to develop. So I got a really good cell phone and I started to use the cell phone to take pictures. And so I'd be really amazed by what I was able to do with them, what I could reveal in terms of what was in the world around us. And as I got newer phones, it got better. And the one I have right now is an exceptionally fine phone, which I can use for taking macro distance. It's got a zoom lens in it. It's just a really great phone. It has wonderful color and saturation. So I started to do it. But then people said, these are remarkable. And pretty soon before I knew what was happening, I was considered an artist, a photographer, and in this wonderful art gallery, online art gallery. So it just sort of happened. But it was part of a shift that was happening in me anyway, away from more formal theology towards more looking at the world and life around me and just enjoying them for what they are.
Who's your biggest influences? What draws you to the beauty of nature?
Interesting question. One is my son, Luke, who's a remarkable artist and who's been very encouraging in terms of my taking pictures and really appreciating what I'm doing. So it's been a real encouragement and it's really drawn our relationship a lot closer. That's a good question because in some respects, it's just been an ongoing flow and movement into the visual. I've always written poetry and they tend to be quite visual and describing things. And so it seemed to be a natural move towards that. I've also been a storyteller at heart. And in many ways, when you take a picture, what you do is you take a part of reality and you shape it. What I'm interested in doing with pictures is looking at the unusual and the unexpected in what is the seemingly ordinary. So I take a picture of pond scum and how beautiful pond scum can be. You wouldn't think so, but it's gorgeous. So that's just an example of what I'm doing.
And after this interview is over, we're going to get to see 3 of your favorite photographs. My favorite is the one where the clouds are reflected in the water. You just mentioned the one.
That is interesting, isn't it? I've taken lots of pictures of that. And what's really remarkable is you have ripples in the water. And when you take the picture, they freeze. The picture freezes in certain ways, and then it creates a design and a pattern that's just amazing. It's like looking into heaven. It's also like looking into different levels, because when you take a picture of water, sometimes you try to take a picture of the reflection, but then under the reflection, you see the water, and under the water, you see the plants in the water. And you just see this multiple layer that allows you to see an incredible depth of what is seemingly simple water and simple reflection. It causes me anyway to see in ways I'd never expected. And I just say, oh my goodness, this is just amazing. What have I discovered when I took this picture? And then people seem to react the same way.
So which is your favorite photograph that you've taken so far?
It's really hard to get down to it. One that I really like is a picture I took of a chair in the woods with water behind it, the light shining through it, and the shimmers of the water, the blues and the textures. It's just really incredible. I've taken some beautiful pictures of the ocean. I do a lot at the Swan Pond in Sackville. There's a couple I took of ducks. It's interesting. In the middle of the winter, where were the ducks? So it's walking down this path aside, and there's kind of like a little spillway, and there were dozens of ducks in the water and on the hill. It's like a tea party or going to the pub. All these people sort of just talking and they say, isn't that interesting? They're not in a pond we expect it to be. They're in this water. And we're talking about February. They're in this water just enjoying the cold and the company. It's just quite amazing. So I love those pictures.
What is your hope for people to reflect upon when they see your photos?
The problem, the issue that most of us deal with is that we live by expectation. And so we walk down the road and say, oh, that's nice looking grass. And we don't think about it. We see the flowers and they just are in passing. We don't take time to look at it. But if I'm able to take an image that freezes a particular flower or a scene, that they stop and they go, oh, wow, I've never seen that before. That's amazing. So that they will themselves begin, as they're walking through the Swan Pond or down a country road, say, look at that bush, or look at the frozen ice and how it looks like jewelry. Just the surprise of seeing something that's so vivid and awe-inspiring and things that are seemingly very simple and yet very, very precious. It also ties in with my theology, because as a priest, of course, I think about theology. And I moved from the normal function on sin, where you sin and you're forgiven, to rather Christ welcomes us into relationships. And in relationships, we begin to build our relationships together. And more recently, I've been looking at the whole thing of the divine dance, because the whole idea of it's called perichoresis. It's a concept in Greek theology that the procession of the Godhead. So the Father moves to the Son moves to the Holy Spirit, and they move in a circle. I think of it like a divine dance. So what happens? The divine dance is called by God to call us into relationship. And so the whole world is a dance of life and of being that God is calling into relationship, not for us to be the masters or the controllers, but to be the partners in creation, where we dance with the flowers and we dance with the animals and we appreciate those beautiful things. I just finished watching this incredibly beautiful film about a man in South Africa who went diving and met an octopus. It's called My Teacher, the Octopus. Beautiful picture. And it talks about how he develops a relationship with this octopus, and how the octopus will use his tentacles to touch him like a cat touches you with its paw. And then after all, it would rest on his chest with all of its tentacles and its legs, just feeling him and touching him and in relationship. And as he grew in relationship, he realized they had a friendship. So the teacher taught him how it was to be with others as himself, not with a purpose or a meaning, but to be in relationship. And I think that's what God calls us to be, in relationship with ourselves, with God, with the entire universe. So if I can deepen people's ability to see what a beautiful world that I want to be part of and enjoy and appreciate, then I've been able to do something.
So what do you hope to get out of this project?
The ability to experience again and again and again the beauties of creation. There are things I wouldn't mind doing, but ultimately the bottom line is just to enjoy what is and to just rejoice in it.
What's your hope for the planet?
I'm not that concerned about the planet, because I think the planet can take care of itself. But we can do things to degrade it and to destroy so much of the richness of life. And if we know anything about evolution, life will recreate in different ways because God is a creator of all that is living. I think what I hope for the planet is that we will begin to understand that we are part of the planet in relation with the planet. And as we live in harmony with all that is, we will have richer lives and we will more express what God calls us to be. Because if we're in the image of God and God is love, the purpose that we have in life is to be lovers. And one of the first covenants in the Bible where Adam and Eve were created and going into Noah is that God calls us to tend the world and all that is in it. That is the first commandment in a sense, to love all that God has given us and to be loved by it as well.
So Lyd, we're all out of time, but I just want to say
Okay.
thanks so much for agreeing
You're
to do
welcome.
this interview. A lot of great perspectives that you brought to this project, and I've really enjoyed your photographs. And I've always said that the greatest connection, when it's confession time for me, when I go to church, my connection is with maybe my past and, memories that I had inside of a building. But I always say that my greatest connection to God is when I'm out in nature, and I get that from your photographs.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Because there are different things that we find in our faith, and to enjoy the richness of life that God has created and that we are part of, truly is pointing us towards God. Martin Luther once said, we can say and understand that God created the universe, but we'll only know who that God is when we see him on the cross. The kind of God we have is a God of infinite love, a God of infinite compassion, and a God who creates life and rejoices in the life that God creates. Again, my sermons.
So thank you so much, Lyd, for agreeing to do this. Folks, if you want to see some of Lyd's work, you can go into the online art gallery and check out his work there. It is like taking a walk through the woods, so I encourage you all to do that. But if you stay tuned on this video, you'll see a couple of samples of his work, and maybe it'll entice you to go some more and check out the online art gallery. So, good night, Lyd, and thank you so much for doing the interview.
You're welcome.